Hi there, my name is Shantae and I am a professor and a motivational speaker and a speech coach, here with some tips on public speaking, but also teaching my class this semester through TikTok, so you get the benefit of learning what my students learn. We are working our way through types of ways to deliver a speech, and so the next type of speech delivery we are talking about is reading from a manuscript, or really just reading a speech. Because most people, when they think they're supposed to give a speech, they sit down at their computer and they type the whole thing out, and then they get up and they read off that piece of paper. And well, that's actually not a very good idea because, well, there's just a lot of bad things with that. So let's talk about it. First, as I've said in other videos, public speaking is a speaking activity, not a writing activity. Yes, you know how to write a really great English paper, but reading that in front of an audience means you know how to read. And well, then you sound robotic and like you're reading a great paper, and then you get all these beautiful things that sound great in a paper, but what about the audience that's there? It's a speech. It should sound like a speech, not a paper. So reading from a manuscript or reading this wonderful speech that you just wrote on a piece of paper sounds like you just wrote a paper. So we are not going to use that method of delivery in our class. And I don't really recommend it for most of my professional clients because it doesn't really work. Now, why do you do this? Well, one, it really separates you from your audience because you have to stand behind something where you can put that piece of paper on, and now you can't really interact with the audience. It also means you can't have a lot of eye contact with them because you're stuck reading from a piece of paper. It means you can't walk around. So this is absolutely out for those of you who have dreams and aspirations of doing a TED Talk. No TED Talk with this method of delivery. It's out. Also, for many inexperienced speakers, this is a really terrible way to start giving a speech because you are much more likely to sound robotic or sound like a cadence because we tend to provide cadences for things when we read them, and that really decreases your credibility as a speaker. Even if you're an expert about what you're reading off the paper, it doesn't sound great. Now, there are some instances when you might want to do this. If you are a person where every single word that you say in that speech really, really matters, then you might want to read a speech from a piece of paper or from a manuscript. If you have a teleprompter, that's also pretty important, and you might want to do that. If you have very little time to prepare, you also might want to use this method, but be very, very cautious. But this is a really careful one to use. Either way, I really don't recommend it unless you absolutely have to, and we're absolutely not going to use it in this class, and it is not my first recommendation. So in this class, not using it. For most of my professional clients, not the first choice, it's a last minute choice. So no reading from a manuscript.